We all know the story of the kiss of betrayal, the silver coins, the guilt, the story of Judas Iscariot, the disciple who handed over Jesus. But what about his death? What really happened? The Bible gives us two versions, two conflicting narratives. In one, he hangs himself. In the other, his body bursts open in a field. What the church never told you is that the truth behind Judas's death is a dark puzzle, a mystery that reveals more about human despair and destiny than about betrayal. Today, we will unravel the two deaths of Judas and explore what each of them teaches us about repentance, condemnation, and the final destiny of the traitor. The first version, the best known, is the one we find in the Gospel of Matthew. Remorse hits like a sledgehammer. Judas, with the 30 pieces of silver weighing in his hands, tries to return the money to the priests and elders, but they reject him. The guilt becomes an unbearable burden. In an act of total despair, he goes and hangs himself. The scene is somber, a tragic and solitary end for a man who had been part of Jesus' inner circle. It is an ending that speaks of despair, of a soul lost in its own guilt, unable to find forgiveness. But the book of Acts gives us a radically different version. Peter, in his speech, recounts the death of Judas. He says that Judas used the money from the betrayal to buy a field, and then, in a shocking event, he fell headlong, his body burst open, and all his intestines spilled out. The field, which becomes known as the Field of Blood, is the scene of a grotesque and violent death. So which of the two is the truth? Did Judas hang himself, or did his body burst open? Bible scholars have debated this for centuries, but perhaps the answer is not in choosing one version over the other, but in understanding what each of them means. The hanging version, in Matthew, has a theological connotation. It mirrors the death of another traitor in the history of Israel, Ahithophel, who betrayed King David. Both Judas and Ahithophel hanged themselves after their betrayals, creating a parallel that the audience of Matthew's time would understand as a prophetic and inevitable end for traitors. The version in Acts, the death by bursting, has a more symbolic and dramatic meaning. The field, bought with dirty money, becomes the place of his own condemnation. The violent and public death serves as a warning, a manifestation of divine justice. It is a death so terrible that it becomes a lesson for all who witness his fall. The two deaths together show us the complete disintegration of Judas. His soul hanged by despair and guilt, and his body destroyed by the consequences of his betrayal. He was not just a traitor, he was a man who, in his despair, chose condemnation over repentance. His end teaches us a bitter truth, that Judas's greatest enemy was not Jesus, but his inability to accept forgiveness. The story of Judas's death is complex and full of mysteries. If this narrative made you reflect on the weight of guilt and the need for forgiveness, subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore the depth of the scriptures. Hit the like button and comment below. Which version of Judas's death do you believe is more symbolic to the story?